Yo, what's up, everybody? So we're gonna hop into a segment of let's talk about it, and we're gonna talk about Cuomo. We're gonna talk about Biden, Harris, Fauci, and Trump. Um, and let's just call it what it is. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, any of the platforms that's gonna be on. Don't delete it because it's gonna be videos, and then we're gonna talk about some things that are fact. So don't sit here and try to act like I'm making some up. So don't try to fact check me, and don't try to delete it and say that it's not on policy, because I'm not making anything up. So let's hop into the video and let's get it going.
On the issue of the vaccine, like everything else in this country, it's partisan, and it's questioned, and there's controversy about it. The way the federal government has handled the vaccine, there are now serious questions about whether or not the vaccine is become politicized. There's been tremendous reporting on that, and the people of this country don't trust this federal government with this vaccine process. How can I say that? I didn't say it. Americans said it. 54% say they wouldn't take the vaccine yet. President is once again in a dispute with the FDA. FDA says they want to make the approval more rigorous, more transparent. President says they're trying to politicize it. Why would FDA be politicizing the approval? Between the president and the FDA, only one entity is engaged in the political process and is headed for election day. It's not the FDA. I don't think Dr. Hahn is running for anything. Is Dr. Hahn running for any office? No. So I don't see what political interest Dr. Hahn, head of the FDA, has. President Trump is engaged in the political process and has an election day. So 54% of New Yorkers say they wouldn't take it. So the first question is the vaccine safe? Frankly, I'm not going to trust the federal government's opinion. And I wouldn't recommend to New Yorkers based on the federal government's opinion. Second question is, if it is a safe vaccine, how do you implement it? Implementation is a massive undertaking. On the first question of is it safe, New York State will have its own review when the federal government is finished with their review and says it's safe. We're going to put together our own review committee headed by the Department of Health that will advise me. We have the best hospitals and research facilities on the globe in this state. We're going to put together a group for them to review the vaccine, so I can look at the camera and can say to New Yorkers that it's safe to take. I want to make sure we know it's safe to take. If the vaccine is safe, then we have to decide, how do you actually implement it? They're talking about 2 shots necessary for a vaccine. You have 19.5 million New Yorkers. You're talking about 40 million doses being administered. You think what we went through thus far has been massive with the testing and the quarantine, etc. Administering a vaccine to every New Yorker, this is a massive undertaking. And the vaccines have to be stored at minus 80 degrees centigrade. You're going to have issues of public confidence, whether or not the vaccine is safe. We're not sure what the federal government's role is going to be. I don't think the federal government understands what its role is going to be. So it's going to be a monumental undertaking in any event. I'm appointing a committee today that is going to come up with a vaccine distribution and implementation plan on how we will do it. The vaccine plan will include prioritization of the vaccine, who gets the vaccine first based on medical standards, not anything else. How do we distribute it? Who can administer it? How do we train those people? How do we train them now? People have to get 2 doses. They have to get 2 of the same medicine in those dosages. You then have to keep track of everybody who was vaccinated, when and what vaccine they actually received. And there's going to have to be a massive public education campaign that talks people through this and how to do it. We're also going to have to buy it, and it's going to be expensive. And who do we buy it from? And I want to make sure we don't go through that same mess that we went through on PPE procurement, where everyone is trying to buy it at the same period of time, and we wind up driving up the price.
All right, where to start? So clearly this video is about Cuomo's dissatisfaction with President Trump, or not President Trump, whatever, with Donald Trump. We'll just say that. Because he basically is saying that he's pissed off because New York's not going to get it. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to act as if the reason that people are skeptical of the vaccine is somehow because of Donald Trump and him politicizing stuff. Okay, and the politicizing of COVID is on Donald Trump. Now, once again, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all your platforms, don't take it off just because I said a word. I'm talking about a video that the governor talked about, so don't try to block me. Anyway, so he's trying to say that. Now, people have been getting skeptical when it comes to vaccines prior to Donald Trump coming into office, prior to COVID. The skepticism of vaccinations has been increasing a lot. So there's that whole war that was going on prior to Trump ever coming into the picture. Okay, and now people who are pro-vaccine are nervous about this vaccine. Okay, because it's being rushed. Now, yes, 100%, I don't care if it's Trump or anybody else, this vaccine is going too fast, and that's crazy. All right, but the point is that Trump is not the reason why people are skeptical about it. And this is what he's trying to make it seem like. And when that's bull, it's between all of the weird things with the numbers, right? All the doctors coming out that all that information is being suppressed. Doctors coming out saying that they were trying to force doctors to say that things were COVID related when they didn't even know. People saying they were taking a very liberal approach to it and saying all the stuff that, oh, we're just gonna assume things are COVID without really knowing, right? So there's all these weird things, and I don't want to get too sidetracked about it, but so there's that. The other thing that this clown's saying, which doesn't really make any sense, is he's saying that first he argues that Donald Trump is saying that it's being politicized, and he says, well, why would Dr. Han politicize it? He's not running for a political seat or any political office, anything like that. And Donald Trump is. So somehow Trump is using it to politicize for himself. Now, I don't know if anybody wants to believe that just because somebody, like a doctor, is not running for an office, that he's not going to gain something from politically pushing a vaccine and politically pushing COVID is completely false. They're going to make money. Like, we're talking about billions of dollars. They're going to make a lot of money. Okay? Look at, in the past, look at how much money the manufacturers make. Look at the money ties, okay, between CDC and Big Pharma. Okay, between different manufacturers in the CDC, okay? Go look those things up, okay? Because I know if I just tell you it's not going to matter, but what I want you to do is to take what I'm telling you to go look into it, because it exists. If you don't want to look at it, then I don't have anything to do, I don't have anything to do for you. But they're there, okay? The money ties are there. And think about this. Cuomo says, in defense, well, why would the FDA do that? Why would Dr. Han do that? So he's defending the FDA, okay? But then a minute or so later goes to say, I wouldn't trust the federal government right now. Okay, so the CDC and the FDA are both owned by HHS. Okay, FDA is a federal agency. Okay, so they are an extension of the federal government, which means they are overseen by the federal government. So it doesn't make sense to defend a federal agency overseen by the federal government and try to act like they're honest, and then 2 seconds later say you don't trust the federal government and you wouldn't trust their opinion and what they say, right? That doesn't make any sense. So moving on, then he talks about we need to administer. He starts going into logistics of we're gonna have to give it to 40 million people and blah blah blah. No, you're not. You're not gonna have to give it to 40 million New Yorkers, as you say, because guess what? 54%, what you said, don't want it. New Yorkers don't want it. Okay? You're with mandation, Cuomo. You're with mandation, okay? That's what you want to do. New York is trying to push for it. They want to mandate it. That's you, Cuomo. They want to mandate it. You want to mandate it, okay? So apparently you're going to only mandate it if it's under an administration that you support, right? So you're saying, so now how is it any different from any other vaccine also when you're talking about, oh, we have to track, see what vaccine the person got, who got it, if they got it. You do that, you got to do that for every vaccine. They have to track everything. The records are supposed to say what vaccine the person got, how many doses of that vaccine they got, when they got it. So yeah, there's a lot more people that, I guess because of this pandemic, there's a lot more people or vaccines that you're trying to produce, but unless you're going to force people to get the vaccine, 40 million people aren't getting it because they said more than half don't want to get it. And a lot of people in the country, as you said, are questioning COVID and the authenticity of COVID. Okay? So it's this guy's trying to twist things and he's trying to talk, but it doesn't make sense if you know the backstories of all these other things that were going on. If all you watch is the TV and what the TV tells you, then you're going to buy this bull. But they took religious exemptions away, okay? They're trying to let, in New York specifically, they have done it in other states, but we're talking about New York, they took religious exemptions away, and what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to now take away the amount of things that qualify for medical exemptions. That's another thing that they're trying to do. So they're trying to take away different reasons for why you can't opt out and why you have to get it, right? This is what they're trying to do. But let me stop talking and we'll go into the other videos, and because everything's going to kind of come full circle, and I want to get through it before I keep talking.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank you,
the Green New Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage to be a leader speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves.
The Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election. Should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
The fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable.
I will not take his word for it. He wants us to inject bleach. No, I will not take his word.
Joe Biden said that as a nation, we should all be wearing a mask for the next 3 months because it will save lives. And the need for this mandatory mask wearing will also be about what Joe has articulated and what a Biden-Harris administration will do in terms of creating a pandemic testing board to get tens of millions of testing kits where needed, to build a public health jobs corps, hiring at least 100,000 Americans to lead us through contact tracing as soon as we take office, and to chart a clear path forward for a safe and effective vaccine and guarantee every American, equal access to it by investing $25 billion, which is Joe's plan, $25 billion in manufacturing and distribution. And when Joe talks about this, I think it's important that the American people looking at the election coming up ask the current occupant of the White House, when am I going to get vaccinated? When am I actually going to get vaccinated? Because there may be some grand gestures offered by the current president about a vaccine, but it really doesn't matter until you can answer the question, when am I going to get vaccinated?
The COVID crisis was the first order of business today for Joe Biden and his new running mate, Senator Kamala Harris. They appeared together for the second straight day and called for a nationwide mandatory mask order.
The governor should mandate mandatory mask wearing. Be a patriot. Protect your fellow citizens. Protect your fellow citizens. Step up. Do the right thing.
I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. And at this moment, the American people can't either. Folks, the president's first responsibility is to protect the American people, and he won't. That's utterly disqualifying. I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. And at this moment, the American people can't either. The National Science Foundation is coordinating with the CDC and other agencies. They indicate that the first group of people that should get the vaccine, if and when it is available, are people at the greatest risk. And that includes everything from nursing homes to people with serious pre-existing conditions that would cause people to be in real trouble. A lot of those people happen to be black and brown. And so it would be based upon the degree of exposure. It would go first, though, I would argue, but I have a scientific board lay it out for me. It would go first, as laid out for me today, to first responders, doctors and nurses, the people who we're most needed to have available to deal with our crises, health as well as physical crises in our communities. I would call all the governors to the White House and say, and because there's a question, I think it can be answered in the positive, a question whether I can mandate over state lines that every single state has to comply. Our legal team thinks I can do that based upon the degree to which there's a crisis in those states and how bad things are for the country. And if we don't do it, what happens? But I would make the case. I'd make the case why it's necessary. I'd have the scientists arrayed to lay out in detail why. And I would go to every governor, and I'd go to governors relating Republican and Democratic governors, and I'd say, we have to have this national mandate. We must do it.
My question is about the coronavirus vaccine,
yes,
or potential. Senator Harris stated that she absolutely would not take a vaccine from President Trump. And of course, we all know it's not President Trump that would create this vaccine. It would be doctors and scientists that presumably we all trust. So my question for you is, if a vaccine were approved between now and the end of the year, would you take it? And if you were to become president, would you mandate that everyone has to take it?
Two things. Number one, President Trump talks about things that just aren't accurate about everything from vaccines, we're going to have one right away, it's going to happen, and so on. The point is that if the body of scientists say that this is what is ready to be done, and it's been tested, it's gone through the 3 phases, yes, I would take it. I'd encourage people to take it. But President Trump says things like, everything from this crazy stuff he's walking away from now, inject bleach in your arm and that's going to work. I'm not being facetious, though. I mean, he's actually said these things. And now Regeneron is the answer. That's going to cure everything. There's 500,000 doses. We got a couple, we have more than a few million people. And most of if you notice, most of the companies who are developing these vaccines are working, they're making real progress. I meet with 4 leading scientists at least twice a week in the beginning, 4 times a week, giving us the detail on what kind of progress is being made. And right now, they do the right thing. When they run into a serious problem, they halt the test. They don't continue until they figure out what the problem was. They're not there yet. And the most scientists say it's not likely to have a vaccine that would be available until the beginning of next year, into the spring of next year. And in the meantime, what I worry about is the same thing with Regeneron, which is a useful antidote, not antidote, a useful tool. But what's happening is there is no plan to figure out how to distribute it. How many, we have 500,000, vials of it. Well, we don't have all the testing equipment. We don't have all the ability to get it to the people who need it. And what we should be doing now, and allegedly it's happening, but I've not seen it yet, nor the docs that I've talked to seen it, there should be a plan when we have the vaccine, how do we distribute it?
And once we get it, if it's safe, if it's effective, will you mandate its use?
The answer is, depending on how clear, there's vaccines, they say, have a very positive impact, and they're going to affect positively 85% of the American public. Or there's others say this vaccine is really the key. This is the golden key. It depends on the state of the nature of the vaccine, when it comes out, and how it's being distributed. That would depend on. But I would think that we should be talking about, depending on the continuation of the spread of the virus, we should be thinking about making it mandatory.
How could you enforce that?
Well, you couldn't. That's the problem. Just like you can't enforce measles. You can't come to school unless you have a measles shot. You can't. But you can't say everyone has to do this. But you would, just like you can't mandate a mask. But you can say, you can go to every governor and get them all in a room, all 50 of them as president, and say, ask people to wear the mask. Everybody knows.
And if they don't, fines?
And they don't, no, not fine. Then I go to every governor, I go to every mayor, I go to every councilman, I go to every local official, say, mandate the mask. Say, this is what you have to do when you're out. Make sure you encourage it being done. Look, George, you and I know, and I think you do too as well, the words of a president matter.
Absolutely.
No matter whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they matter. And when a president doesn't wear a mask or makes fun of folks like me when I was wearing a mask for a long time, then, people say, well, it mustn't be that important. But when a president says, I think this is very important, for example, I walked in here with this mask, but I have one of the N95 masks underneath it. I left it in my dressing room, the room I was in before I got here. And so I think it matters what we say. And we're now learning that children are getting the virus, not with as serious consequences, but there's been no studies done yet on vaccines for children. So there's a long way to go, but we can make progress in the meantime and save lives. And the last point I'll make, if you listen to the head of the CDC, he stood up and he said, while we're waiting for a vaccine, and he held up a mask, you wear this mask, you'll save more lives between now and the end of the year than if we had a vaccine. It's estimated by every major study done from the University of Washington to Columbia that if, in fact, we wore masks, we could save between now and the end of the year 100,000 lives.
And avoid lockdowns?
And avoid lockdown, yes. You don't have to lock down if you're wearing the mask.
Before I talk about these other two clowns, I forgot to say something about Cuomo. The other thing that he was saying was we're going to need to train people how to administer it. We're going to have to do... What is going to be so severely different that you're going to have to train people? Vaccines is a needle, right? And they administer them, and the doctors know how to give vaccines, all the pediatricians, and they give vaccines on the CDC schedule, right? You have all these doctors who know how to do and give a vaccine the correct way. So why is all of a sudden this is such a big thing? I don't really think the training is an aspect you need to worry about, considering that they know how to administer vaccines already. So I don't really understand, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't really understand how COVID vaccine is going to be so astronomically different and so much harder to give than vaccines that we already give. But anyway, so let's jump into that video that one, that horribly long drawn out explanation from Joe Biden, which was insane. But from those videos, we can clearly see that they are pro-mandate the masks, pro-mandate the vaccine, right? So they keep saying. So remember, I'm going to need you guys to critically think here. If you're Trump or Biden, okay, you got to critically think. And you know what? Maybe the people who are Biden and Kamala should think about this too, because there's a lot of heat coming from that side. So what do these people say, right? They don't make sense. Kamala and Biden say what? They're pro-mandate. They want to mandate it. But then 2 seconds later or before in the video, they say what? Well, we trust the scientists and we trust the doctors, but we don't trust Trump. Okay? Well, one, do you people think that Trump is like single-handedly and personally like in his kitchen like just putting together a vaccine to give to people? Trump is not making a vaccine. He can appoint somebody to oversee it. So if you distrust the person he's appointing to oversee it, but he didn't revamp the entire system of who's making the vaccine. He didn't get rid of every single doctor and scientist and all the manufacturers that are involved. These manufacturers have been established for years. Johnson & Johnson is fairly new, but there's companies that he and manufacturers that he doesn't really have a part to play in on who's making stuff in there. He has somebody who can oversee it, but the same doctors and the same manufacturers and scientists, those people are ones that have been involved in past vaccines. So to be so skeptical about these people, or to say I trust the scientists and the doctors, well, those are the people who are making the vaccine, not Donald Trump. One, so you sound dumb. Two, they have been there. Nobody's changed. So if you can be so skeptical about the COVID vaccine and the people who are making it, but then you're not skeptical of all the other vaccines, that doesn't make any sense considering that these people are involved in making other vaccines that people take. Right? So that's one point. Second point is mandation versus the freedom to choose, okay? They contradict themselves if you pay attention. Now, this is where we're going to critically think here. You're pro-mandating a vaccine, right? Kamala and Biden are pro-vaccine. Let's mandate it. Let's mandate it. But then they say they don't trust Trump, so they're not going to get it if it's under his administration. That's not supporting the idea of a mandatory vaccination law, you idiots. That's supporting the idea of freedom to choose, because you distrust the people who are in play with the vaccine. You distrust the president and his administration, so you're saying I'm not getting a vaccine from that guy because I don't trust him. That's a freedom to choose. So for everybody who's out here going, hey, let's mandate a vaccine, if this guy really is the Antichrist and Hitler, like everybody wants to say, and he's a racist and he's all this and you vote to mandate a vaccine, guess what? You're subjected to that psychopath. And if he really is this bad, what's stopping him from putting something in vaccines and giving a separate vaccine that could be poisonous to a select group of people that he might not like? You guys need to think about this for a second. If you are pro-mandation, if the president is a bad person and the people he's appointing, and he somehow can corrupt the CDC, right? Worse than I personally think they are, but that's besides the point. We'll say that they're perfect, and then some guy comes in and he fucks the whole thing up. You're now subject to that because you voted for a mandate. So, once again, Kamala and Biden, pro-mandate, but support the freedom to choose because they don't trust Trump. Right, contradiction. Makes a lot of sense. So, you know, think about that for a little bit. Think about it, play with it, see if anything connects in your brain that these clowns over here are just playing games. They're not honest. The long, drawn-out explanation to just basically say yes to that woman's question. If it comes out and it's safe, right? You keep saying the doctors, you trust the doctors. So she asks, if it comes out and the doctors that we presumably trust say it's safe, will you get it and will you mandate it? And this guy's over here playing Word Olympics, not answering the question, brings you on a 5 to 10 minute rant and the guy has to reiterate the question because he never answered it and still didn't give a simple yes. So he goes to, which is what they want to do, is they want to make your life uncomfortable if you don't get the vaccine, right? So you can't really say you have the freedom to choose and it's a free country if you're being penalized because you didn't do what they wanted you to do. If you can't go to school, if you can't go here, if you can't do this, if you can't do that because you didn't get the vaccine or you're not wearing a mask, that's not the freedom to choose because I'm losing something. So my choice is giving me a negative consequence according to you guys. Okay? I'm not actually going out and hurting somebody. So that's bull. You know, so you gotta think about this shit. You gotta look at this stuff. You gotta watch different videos and do your research, man. It is not a joke. It's not a joke. And I'm very curious when it comes to, say, Kamala and Biden, they get inaugurated, right? They get put in. I'm very curious how long they're gonna wait until they say the vaccine is safe and effective. I'm curious. Because the important thing to look at is not how long it got, which, yes, they're rushing it, but it's not how long did it take to develop it, it's what happens after it's administered. How does the body react? That's the important part. It doesn't matter if they took 10 years. Look at HPV. That took a long time. And that people up, girls, because they try to put it on guys, but mostly girls were getting it. And it killed people, it killed girls, it made girls paralyzed, it made girls infertile. I'm pretty sure there's other things, but those are the top 3 that I'm thinking of right now. So that one was in development for a lot of years and still did damage. So the amount of years that it takes to develop it isn't always going to be the thing that tells you it's safe. It's how does it affect the body. Doing the correct procedure when it comes to doing the experiment, making sure it's a double-blind placebo study, which they don't do because they get to do their own. Go educate yourself. Go look at the 1986 Vaccine Compensation Act. Go look at the HHS and how these people, the HHS took responsibility, the manufacturers have no liability. Go look at all of that. Go educate yourself. It has nothing to do with Trump. Okay? And don't let these people trick you, make you think it's something different. Like I said, I'm not on board with the fast vaccine. Not on board with it. That's Trump's thing. But let's think about it this way. If he didn't try to make a vaccine, would you guys be content with that? Or would you guys be bitching at Trump because he didn't make a vaccine? He'd probably be getting bitched at because he didn't make a vaccine, so he wouldn't care about people. And now that he's making it fast, it's still not good. I agree with you, but you gotta look at the hypocrisy here. You gotta look at it and you gotta think about it. All right, so now let's hop into Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, there were reports that the White House, including Dr. Scott Atlas, one of the president's advisors on the coronavirus task force, may now be embracing herd immunity as a policy and may favor the so-called Great Barrington Declaration, under which only people at high risk of dying would be protected from the virus. Do you think herd immunity is a viable strategy for the U.S. to adopt?
Yeah, you know, Dan, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'll tell you exactly how I feel about that. That, again, is another trap, because when you talk about the Great Barrington Declaration, what they say in there and then what is implied are two different things. They say, A, we need to protect the vulnerable. I totally agree with that. No problem. That's apple pie and motherhood. The other thing is that you don't want to lock down or close down the country. I certainly agree with that. I just said that. But in there is the implication that if you just let anybody get and everybody get infected, don't wear masks, let children get infected, let everybody get infected, and just protect the vulnerable, like being really careful in nursing homes and places like that. That doesn't work, because in our community, there's maybe a third of the population, depending upon how you figure it, that are vulnerable and would be prone to getting serious complications from COVID-19 disease. It is impossible, and we've never protected those people in the community. They're not in nursing homes where you can do things in nursing homes. You have the elderly, obese people, people with underlying conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and other conditions. If you let infections rip, as it were, and say, let everybody get infected that's going to be able to be getting infected, and then we'll have herd immunity, quite frankly, that is nonsense. And anybody who knows anything about epidemiology will tell you that that is nonsense and very dangerous. Because what will happen is that if you do that, by the time you get to herd immunity, you will have killed a lot of people that would have been avoidable. So, I mean, there is a certain core group of people that are saying that. But talk at the standard people throughout the country who understand infectious diseases and understand epidemiology, with the exception of the few that you know who we're talking about, they would all vehemently disagree with this idea of just letting everybody getting infected and don't worry about it.
Ultimately, the showstopper will be obviously a vaccine where you can vaccinate people and you won't have it. There's going to be another issue that's going to be important, and it has to do with somewhat of a comparison, for example, with influenza. We go through multiple cycles of influenza. There's always a degree of background immunity in the population. I mean, that will ultimately happen if we get a situation where we get back to normal. Now, I hope we don't have so many people infected that we actually have that herd immunity, but I think it would have to be different than it is right now.
Right, so I'm doing really great with forgetting to say things when I want to say them pertaining to the video, so we're going to go back again to Biden and Harris. So what they said, this was actually a really big one that I completely forgot to talk about, is he said, we're going to give it to the immune compromised people who are severely at risk, and we're going to and the people who have comorbidities. Okay, so the whole idea, now this is facts, this is not me making it up, okay, the whole idea of what a vaccine is and what these people say we need a vaccine for, and they preach every year over and over, is the people who can't handle the vaccines are not, they're for the protection of the people who have immune compromised systems, but they're not for them specifically to get. They're for the population surrounding them that doesn't have a compromised immune system. So the hope is that herd immunity will happen to protect those weak and sick people. So me or you or anybody else who doesn't have an immune compromised body, okay, we get the vaccine, so we build an immunity for the sick people, okay? So to say that we're going to give the vaccine, okay, to those sick people who can't handle it, that are immune compromised, goes against the entire logic and science of what they say how a vaccine works and what they're doing. If you give, now this is why you're not supposed to go around you're not supposed to go around babies, and you're not supposed to go around sick people after you get vaccines, because vaccines do shed, okay? This is why when people are in a hospital, right? This is why cancer patients, actually, let me say that. This is why cancer patients, depending on where they are, but if they're very, very sick and they're in a hospital for a long time, they can't get a vaccine because they're immunosuppressed. Their body can't handle it. Okay? So whether it's the real one or the natural one, we'll say, versus the pharmaceutical one, their body can't handle it because their immune system is weak and it can't defend itself. It can't do what it needs to do. So, like I said, a vaccine is made to give to the population that is not immunocompromised to protect the immunocompromised, because they can't get the vaccine. So now that we're talking about COVID, we're going to give the vaccine to the immunocompromised people? Is that another Biden up? Or is he just a dumbass and he doesn't know what he's talking about? And these people are just trying to sell and you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. Once again, these things aren't adding up. They don't make sense. But now, Fauci. So that one video the second video was actually a very low volume. But I would like to just say that video was very hard to find. And I know Fauci's not heading it, right? We said that before. But he has come out now. That video, the second video, was actually from the past, when he was heading the CDC before Trump took him out. But he says, right, what? Talking about the flu. And he uses the word infection, okay, because it sounds scary. It sounds scarier. So these are all playing with the words to make your brain think certain things. Exposure, infection. He's using infection because it sounds scarier than exposed, okay? Now, he's now saying that it's stupid to get herd immunity, right? To let people, because all these people are going to die. And he's naming heart disease, diabetes, obesity. He's naming all these things. One, that people their personal choices in their life got them to that point. So your freedom to choose that you wanted to eat like shit and treat your body like shit and not care for yourself got you to that position of not being healthy and not having a strong immune system and having all these health issues, which would now be your comorbidity, right? So now somebody like me and other people who care about their health and do things for my freedom to choose for myself, because I don't care what you're doing, it's for me. Now I get overlooked because you chose to not care, right? Now, yes, people dying is sad, people getting sick is sad, but your freedom to choose should not trump my freedom to choose. And if you choose to do these things and treat your body poorly, you need to take the territory of what happens when you treat your body poorly. You're going to get diabetes, you're going to get obesity, you're going to get fat, you're going to have potential cancer, you're going to have a bunch of health issues, you're going to raise your risk of Alzheimer's, right? All these things, so many things go through the roof when you start treating your body like shit. And your immune system is trash. So it's a lot easier for you to get sick, okay? You're not going to be able to fight it off, okay? So we have that. In one video he said herd immunity would be bad, right? Even though herd immunity is what they want, and this is why they try to sell us the vaccines, because they want herd immunity. So herd immunity is only good when you get it through their product that they're making a ton of money off of. But it's bad if you get it the natural way, which is better, and will give you lifelong immunity. These are not my words. If you want to look up a video, I should have put it in here, but I didn't. It's Paul Offit, and he is talking about measles, and he has he has lifelong immunity from measles because he got measles as a kid. His words, not mine, and he can go into a room full of measles patients with no vaccine and have no fear of getting sick because he has lifelong immunity, because the natural immunity replicated in his body so at such a higher rate than a vaccine does, and it's just so much better and stronger. Okay, so not my words, so don't try to take the video down once again. Okay, so we have that. So we have Fauci saying that the herd immunity would be bad. If too many people, right, talking about the flu, there's a background on herd immunity. If they get infected or exposed, I don't really know if you could call somebody infected if they're healthy. Usually infection is when you're not healthy, when you build an immunity. So if you get a vaccine, are you not considered infected because now you have that organism within your body? Right? If it's just in your body, is that considered infected? So then you should be infected if you get a vaccine, right? So if you're immune, which is good, it's not infection, it's an exposure, and your body regulates it, and now that thing is living within your body in homeostasis with your body, so your body now has it for the rest of its life, so that can't get you sick. You can't get sick from that ever again. So he says herd immunity would be bad if enough people got sick, because if we got natural herd immunity, that's bad. Why is that bad? Explain to me why that's bad, that immunity is bad. Explain it to me. I'll wait. It's not. It doesn't make sense, because then vaccines would be bad. But what do vaccines try to do? Try to get you immunity. So immunity's good. Immunity's good. It's not bad. Okay? So the other thing that you have to think about is another play on words, right? Is they say, well, everybody keeps getting sick and the numbers are going up and this and that. Now, we can speculate, are the numbers going up because of all the weird, funky shit they say to add, or if it is trivial, okay, not trivial, sorry, novel, if it is novel, our bodies have never been exposed to it before. So you cannot have an immunity to something that you've never been exposed to. That's not how it works. These are not my words. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. These are of experts who are on the side of which you don't get to see on TV, because the people that are in charge, like Big Pharma, pay for you to not hear that. So you need to go out of your way to research these people, and they have the same credentials, they have the same level of education that the people that you listen to tell you what is good and what is healthy do. The same ones, they're just on the opposite side. So do yourself a favor and look at people on the other side with the same level of expertise and knowledge and schooling. And some of those people actually have more, because they don't just learn about drugs and pharmaceuticals and the normal healthcare system that we learn. They learn that plus natural medicine. So technically they actually have more education than the guys that you're listening to. But besides the point. So if it is a new one, a new virus we've never been exposed to, people are going to get sick from being exposed from it. Okay? Now, depending on your body, it's different. People will be different levels of sickness. There's many people who only tested positive for it but have no symptoms, okay? Because their body was able to beat it or control it, and now they have immunity. So then there's going to be the people like Fauci's talking about that are extremely unhealthy that are going to get sick. And there's going to be the people in the middle that they might get like little things like a little fever, a little nausea, they get a headache, they get like the light symptoms, but nothing crazy, and then they bounce back and they'll still have their immunity. Okay, so there's going to be different levels of how it interacts with people, but it's solely going to interact with people based on your immunity. Okay, so if you're nervous about it, then you need to get on building your immunity. You're not going to build it with antibiotics and pharmaceutical drugs, because antibiotic is anti, okay? Biotic and a biotic, which is like a microbe. We'll just go with that, okay? It's a microbe. It's the bacteria. So if it's anti, it's going to kill them. A probiotic is going to promote them. Okay, so you need to learn about that. Learn about probiotics. Learn about prebiotics, right? You gotta learn. You gotta look into this stuff and learn about it. This is what's going to protect you at the end of the day. So this guy is just another clown, okay? He's another shill who is making a lot of money, okay? You know, he's saying one thing and then he's saying another, you know, and he's not being honest. He's just telling you things that's going to keep you scared and nervous. And that's the other thing you have to think about too, is that every time you hear these people talk that are on the left, they're always so negative all the time. They're just reintroducing and they're not reassuring you that everything's going to be okay. They're reassuring you that everything's not going to be okay. They're just reintroducing and making sure that you're scared. You just know how terrible everything is. You blah blah blah, right? How is that? You're going to cause chaos in a nation. That's not how you handle it. They want to bitch at Trump because Trump, oh, he was trying to downplay it. No, he's not trying to downplay it. He was trying to keep everybody keep them out of going into a frenzy. He's trying to keep them at peace of mind, because that's what a leader would do. Is a leader tries to help the people stay strong and not panic, so you can get through it. The pandemic, if you know, it's happening whether you decide to scare everybody or not. So the best way to handle the situation is to make sure everybody stays calm so the country doesn't freak out. But these people want to make sure that you stay scared. That's what they want to do. Hopefully I said everything I wanted to say, because we're going to jump into the next video. All right, let's hop into this one.
We've heard that the vaccine typically would take 12 to 18 months to develop. How can you do it in a speedier fashion? What makes you think this will work?
Well, they started actually, I guess you heard, in January, early January, and they've been working on it. I know so many, and private companies have been working on it. The government's been working on it. So we've got the time, because we put and they've literally been working 24 hours a day. So we've got the time, and we hope to be able to do something by the end of the year or shortly thereafter. But again, you know, it's not solely vaccine-based. Other things have never had a vaccine, and they go away. So I don't want people to think that this is all dependent on vaccine, but a vaccine would be a tremendous thing. And I will tell you, therapeutically or therapeutics, what's going on there is equally as impressive. We have some things happening. You know, we have the remdesivir from Gilead. We have other things that are very good. I think that a lot is happening therapeutically. I can't say that it's, relatively speaking, equal to what's going on with vaccines, but I think it's doing very well, very well.
I trust the American people, and the governors want to do the right thing to make the smart decisions, and Joe doesn't. The genetic sequence of the virus was first published in January, but thanks to the unprecedented partnership between the FDA, NIH, and the private sector, we've reached human trials for the vaccine just 8 weeks later. That's a record by many, many months. It used to take years to do this, and now we did it just in a very short while. Today, I can announce further steps to expand testing capacity. We're working with several groups to determine if the self-swab, a much easier process than the current process that's not very nice to do, I can tell you, because I did it. But we have a current process that's a little bit difficult. If you have it done, the groups are working on determining if a self-swab by an individual is as effective as the other. The other is very effective, very accurate. And now it's our time. We must sacrifice together because we are all in this together and we'll come through together. It's the invisible enemy. That's always the toughest enemy, the invisible enemy. But we're going to defeat the invisible enemy. I think we're going to do it even faster than we thought. And it will be a complete victory. It'll be a total victory. I'm ready to send rental assistance payments to hardworking Americans that have been hurt by the China virus. All of these things are on a list. Democrats are holding this up. I'm ready to send $105 billion to the states to help open schools safely with additional PPE, and Democrats are holding this up. So that's $105 billion to the states to help open schools safely with additional PPE. Democrats are holding that up.
Two questions on vaccines. First, once a vaccine is ready, who should get it first?
I will rely on the doctors to tell me that. I would say probably the elderly. I would say nursing homes. A lot of people said, would you take it? I said, I'll take it if they want, or I'll go first or last. I'll do whatever they want me to do. But I would think that the elderly, the people that are most vulnerable to the disease.
Russia has approved the vaccine. What do you know about the vaccine? Have you spoken to Russian officials about it?
We don't know much about it. We hope it works. We do. We hope it works. They've cut off certain trials, and we just feel it's important to go through the process. We have numerous different vaccines that we think are going to work, but we want to go through a system of trials. We're very advanced. We're very we'll be announcing something in the not-too-distant future.
All right, let's wrap this video up. So, I do not, like I said before, like the idea of this. You know, Trump is behind it, but the big difference between Trump and these other people like Biden and Cuomo and Kamala is that, yeah, I disagree. I don't think that it's good to rush a vaccine, but he is not trying to mandate anything for anybody. If you want to get it, if you feel comfortable from the science that you've looked up about the vaccine, you can choose to get it. He also said, I don't want people to think that the vaccine is going to be the saving grace. There are a lot of viruses and things that have come and gone with no vaccine, and that is very true. Okay. He also, which I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris and Biden have never brought this up in a conversation. Whenever Trump talks about vaccines, he talks about therapeutics. Okay. Treatments that are not vaccines to make people better, right? That's the big difference. Therapeutics, not mandating it, letting you have free will and free choice to choose if you want to get it. He's giving you the option. You don't have to take the option because it's a free country, but it's there if you want it. I would say don't take it because it's too fast, and I don't really trust those people anyway because of all of the conflict of interest that is going on there, and the amount of money that goes on there, and the amount of lobbying that goes on with the pharmaceutical company. They are the strongest lobby in Washington, so there's a lot of skepticism going on there. You know, so if you're curious about that, go look it up. So yeah, he's not forcing anybody to do anything. It's there if you want it, but you don't hear Biden, you don't hear Kamala, you don't hear Cuomo talking about anything other than get the vaccine. I think we heard Fauci say stuff about maybe taking some vitamins, but you don't hear these other people talking about it. Why don't they talk about it? Because they don't want you to to try these things. This is why hydroxychloroquine got attacked. This is why all these different alternative things got attacked and were made illegal. Meanwhile, there was doctors upon doctors upon doctors vouching for this and saying it worked great. That cost $26. $26 for the whole treatment, and people were making turnarounds in a day. Okay, so you got to open eyes and your ears, and you got to go do a little bit of research, guys. You know, so let's recap. Okay, Cuomo tries to make it look like Trump is the reason for the craziness when it comes to COVID, when people and the vaccine. Meanwhile, people are getting skeptical prior to Trump ever being in office because of all the other shit going on. And then everything that was going on when it came to COVID made people more skeptical. Okay, then he tries to support, says he doesn't want. He's defending the FDA and Dr. I forgot the guy's name. But the doctor that works for the FDA, he's defending him, and then he says, well, I don't trust the federal government. Meanwhile, that the FDA is literally an extension of the federal government, is overlooked by the federal government because it's a federal agency. Okay, so then we're gonna go, Biden and Harris, and they're saying we're gonna mandate. They want mandates, and then they don't trust Trump, so now we get the freedom to choose. But if we're in office, you don't get to choose, mandate. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Contradict yourself, clowns. And then we'll go into the whole idea of even they want to lock everything down, right? That's what they want to do too. If they win, they want to lock the economy down again, which is going to cause more problems. The amount of people that lost their jobs already, the rate is 97 to 99%. I hear 99 a lot, but the lower number is 97%. Okay, that is not numbers to deem a pandemic. Just because somebody is exposed to something doesn't make them sick. Doesn't inherently make it bad. You need to be exposed to build an immunity. Whether you think it's through a vaccine or natural immunity, exposure needs to happen for you to build immunity. That's what needs to happen. Okay? Some people get sick, some people don't. It's on your personal health. Get you together. If you're scared, it's probably because you're not a healthy person. Okay? Go get you healthy. If we keep locking everything down, people who don't go outside, that stay inside, that don't exercise, don't eat good, and don't get acclimated to nature, because that's how you reconstitute your microbiome, which is a part of your immune system. It's that bacteria that's all over the place. When you come back outside, you're going to be sensitive. You're going to be at a higher risk to get sick. So if we keep locking everything down and closing things and not allowing people to go do things and telling people to stay home, stay indoors, you're going to become, your immune system is not going to get stronger. That's not how it works. Go look up the science. It's there. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up. It's there. So that's what's going to happen. Okay, what else? Fauci contradicting himself too, saying that herd immunity is bad if it happens naturally, but it's good if it happens through a vaccine. Okay, using the word infected to keep you scared instead of saying exposure, right? Not explaining to people how things work. Look up Paul Offit and talking about him being immune to measles. Go look that up. Okay? What else? What else did we talk about? Oh yeah, and then the last thing we just talked about with Trump, but I just said that so we don't need to talk about that. But yeah. For that vaccine, I'm with Biden and Kamala on that, but not for the same reasons that they say that. They say that for some other bull. just to contradict themselves, because probably when if they get into the administration, they're going to pump that out pretty quick. But yeah, you got to check out different people, man. You got to check out, I think Suzanne Humphreys is good. You got to check out the Victory Show, which got taken off of YouTube. They deleted it all because of his information. He has a lot of people. Go check Del Victory, the High Wire. He has an amazing non-for-profit. He has a bunch of people on his show. He says and asks any questions he wants because he's not being controlled and paid to say certain things and not say certain things. And he has people who are pro-vaccine on there too. He doesn't just have people who are whatever. So go do your research. Look into these people. Look into the opposition so you can actually make up your mind. Learn about health. Learn about natural health. Learn about the microbiome. You need to look this up. Telling you, if these people get into office, you don't like Trump, have fun with that. They're gonna lock it down. They're gonna mandate it. They're coming for you. They're coming for all of us. So, alright, hopefully you guys like this video. If you do, share it. You know, kind of ranted a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. I had to say it, and you know, we have to talk about it. We'll see how long, if this even stays up. You know, YouTube seems to be a little bit more strict with taking shit down, but we'll see what happens. But yo, much love, and talk to you guys later.